Tonight on Daily Planet.
It's the biggest annual freediving event in the world.
And the most dangerous. But this little device could change all that.
Move over, R.A. Dickey. There's a new knuckleballer in town.
I love land speed record racing.
And I love long drives on a beach with a jet-powered engine. Call me.
And popping balloons. Scary and stunning.
Hello and welcome to Daily Planet. I'm Zai Tong.
And I'm Dan Riskin. It's the start of a new week. We have an action-packed hour ready to rock. You're looking for a new high-adrenaline way to go sightseeing in China? We got that covered. And who said paddling with your feet was a bad idea?
But we are kicking things off tonight in the Bahamas to check out a potentially life-saving technology for those who love to dive deep and push their bodies to the extreme.
Freediving is where we're holding our breath and trying to go as deep as possible.
On the surface, freediving seems like a dangerous sport.
The attraction of the depth is the challenge of it.
For those who push the very limits of human potential, nosebleeds and even blackouts are all too common.
It wouldn't be unusual to see some blood coming from the nose. And this would indicate a sinus squeeze.
I think it's great to explore the human potential and go a bit crazy, but you also need to be safe. If you're not 100% sure about the safety and what to do, you'll kill yourself.
It's the final day of the Vertical Blue Championship.
3 minutes.
And William Trubridge has come to win.
It's the biggest annual freediving event in the world. You have Japanese, Australian, European, African competitors all here to dive. I set my first world record in 2007 here in Dean's Blue Hole, and since then I've broken 15 world records. This competition is the first of 4 for me in this competitive season. I still want to push myself, and maybe I'll go for a world record.
23 competitors from 12 countries are here, and safety is the top priority.
One of the biggest dangers in freediving is the lung squeeze, meaning that the water pressure is so high that the lungs actually squeeze together in a way that it starts bleeding internally. And that often leads to a blackout in the surface.
And in some cases, even death.
Unfortunately, 2 years ago, we had a fatality right here in the Blue Hole where a freediver lost his life due to lung squeeze.
At the Vertical Blue 2013 competition, American freediving champion Nick Mavoli blacked out after reaching the surface and died shortly after.
That was a real wake-up call, not just for us in Vertical Blue, but for the whole freediving community in the world.
That, of course, sparked the thinking of protocols to make freediving safer.
World record holder, 4-time champ, and PhD, Stig Severinsen is now investigating the effect extreme depth has on athletes. And he's doing it with a brand new toy.
You get an indication directly from slipping this small device on your fingertip, and it will tell you about your physiological state. The MightySat pulse oximeter is a very complex device, but it gives you a very simple number, and that's the beauty of the device. It works with red and infrared technology, so wavelengths are actually going through your finger, and then based on the calculation of the tissue and the bone, and also the way the blood is pulsating, it will calculate and estimate what the oxygen saturation level is, meaning how much oxygen is available in the arterial bloodstream.
It's the first time a study like this has been undertaken at a major competition. For the researchers and divers participating in the study, these are uncharted waters.
What we're doing is actually we're measuring on the athletes before and after the dives. We have not yet looked at all the data, but after the dive is when you expect to see that the oxygen saturation actually is lower in some of the athletes. So if we're in the range of 87, 89, then we will not allow the athlete to dive again. And we actually have the athlete to come back after 15 minutes continuously until the saturation is higher. And if it doesn't increase, they will go into the hospital.
Will shows good oxygen levels and gets the green light. His goal is to break his own record in his favorite discipline.
William Trowbridge, New Zealand.
For me, the no-fins discipline, unassisted, is the purest form of freediving because there's no adjuncts to the body, no additions. And I see it as the definition of human aquaticity. How deep are we as a species?
In the first 10 meters, the pressure doubles. By the time he reaches the 50-meter mark, the pressure is 6 times that on the surface. But Will is still going.
Freediving for me is a real escape from everything that happens on the surface. So it's a journey into a place where there's no gravity, there's very little sensation of time, no sound, no sights, everything's dark.
He's deep enough to submerge the Statue of Liberty. Knowing that Will has attempted a world record depth, the emergency team is on high alert.
As a medic, I'm watching the athlete come to the surface and trying to focus on their motor control or their neurological control. Are their eyes open? Or can they grab the rope? Can they hold on to the rope? Are they following commands?
He didn't quite break the record, but Will did complete an astounding dive to more than 90 meters. More importantly, he made it back safe and sound.
I think this project is wonderful. It's a big privilege and honor. We all want to explore the human potential. We want to do wonderful, crazy things, but we want to do it safely. And I think this project is just taking baby steps, but certainly going in the right direction.
In time, data from this study could shape the future of this sport, revealing much about the dangers that lie in the deep.
I firmly believe that using this MightySat pulse oximeter from Massimo can absolutely save lives. We want this beautiful sport to show that it's a beautiful lifestyle that everybody can participate in, but it has to be done safely.
I'm okay. Now that is an extreme sport, but I have this feeling that it is not the only sport on people's minds tonight.
No, some people are pretty excited about the Blue Jays. They're back tonight hoping to make up lost ground. They've lost 2, so they need to win, 4. Anyway, tomorrow, R.A. Dickey is on the mound, and he's, of course, famous for his knuckleball.
And with any luck, they're going to keep the dream alive, or they could always, give the knuckleball machine a try.
Strike 3 and you're out. The elusive knuckleball. No one knows where it's going. It dances all over the place until the last couple inches. One player in particular relies on this unpredictable pitch to fool hitters.
R.A. Dickey from the Toronto Blue Jays, he's been doing very well this season.
This team of student engineers armed with math and science set out to replace the well-known pitcher. Martin Coate breaks down how they built the first machine that can throw a knuckleball every time. Yeah, that seems easy.
We're a little nervous because the pitches, they usually go all over the place, so we don't want to obviously hit someone.
With that warning, I'm on the lookout for flying balls because this pitching machine is heading to the mound for the very first time.
I'm not much of a baseball guy, so I'm starting from scratch. So what's a knuckleball?
So a knuckleball is a pitch that's thrown with very little spin. Other pitches, like a fastball or curveball, they spin a lot. But a knuckleball doesn't spin, so the seams create an uneven surface, and that'll guide it in different directions.
Okay, so when a baseball has spin on it, it stays kind of standard, stays static, but on the knuckleball, not so much?
Well, the spin is going to be the force that drives where it goes.
All right, so that's what makes the knuckleball so mysterious. You created a machine that actually replicates that pitch?
That's correct.
How?
Right, so this machine is basically a repurposed pitching machine. It has 2 wheels. To control the spin, we control the rotation of each wheel separately. So for a knuckleball and to have no spin, we want both these wheels to be going about the same speed. So we have sensors that read the wheel speed, they relay it to our microcontroller.
Yeah, that is fascinating. So you took something that's meant to put a bunch of spin on a ball, and you're actually making it so that it puts less spin on it.
The orientation device uses a combination of 3 linear actuators and 2 motors, and those kind of come in and out and grip the ball and twist it until we get the right orientation that we want to throw the pitch at.
Okay, enough talking. Let's fire it up.
So before we throw a knuckleball, I've set the machine up to throw fastballs. I've also colored half the ball so we can see the spin. Now in this configuration, the bottom wheel is spinning much quicker than the top wheel. So there should be a lot of backspin on this ball, and you'll be able to see the difference to the knuckleball later.
All right, cool. Throw it in. Woo! Dude, that was smoking, and I could totally see that spin on it for sure.
Now we're going to switch to the knuckleball, and you'll be able to see the difference. When a pitcher throws a knuckleball, they dig their fingernails in the top, and rather than releasing it with spin, it's more of a pushing motion to get rid of all the spin. Okay. To emulate that on our machine, we have sensors on the top reading the wheel speed. And the pitch is very delicate, so we have another motor with a little arm that'll release the ball when it's the right moment.
Well, you were kidding. There's way more going on than with just a fastball. Let's see this knuckle in action. Oh, that's crazy. You totally took the spin off.
That's right. And every fastball was right down the middle. Now the knuckleballs are going all over the place.
This machine has never been tested in the field before, but it's still throwing knuckleballs every time, despite environmental variables like wind and sun that could affect the pitch.
So when you were testing this, you were doing it inside, I guess, where you had more control over all the factors?
The only time we actually had to test the machine on campus was between midnight and about 5 a.m. and just shot the balls down the hallway.
Now, one thing I'm curious about, though, is we need to get somebody in here to see if they can actually hit it. What do you think?
Sure, try it out.
It's not going to be me, though, okay?
No, me neither.
Not you either?
I'm not getting behind that.
Oh, man, what are we going to do?
On deck, the University of Toronto varsity hitters. Bring it on, boys. Take a seat.
Go! Go!
I'm gonna let that one slide. Swing and a miss. Better luck next time.
So Martin, this is the first time you've taken the knuckleball machine out of the lab. I mean, you're dealing with light, wind, and actual batters.
The pitches were all over the place. Batters had a real hard time hitting them, and I'm really happy with how it did.
Well, that's what you want to see. I mean, you don't want to make it too predictable because you want the batters to be able to practice against it.
That's the point.
Now, who else is going to benefit from a machine that can throw a knuckleball?
So obviously batters, because it's hard to hit. But catchers actually have a real hard time catching it as well. So it'd be great for them to practice.
Man, I wouldn't mind taking a couple of practice swings myself, but do you have like a bunt mode on it? Because there's no way I'm hitting a fastball.
It doesn't go that slow, I'm sorry.
It won't go that slow? Version 2. Version 2.
Today on Trending, row, row, row your boat. Wait a second, this looks kind of weird.
It does look super weird to me. This is from an area in Vietnam called Ninh Binh, and apparently for about 10 years, people there have been rowing boats this way. It kind of took off because apparently they row really far, like 7 kilometers in this one touristy stretch, and the legs just don't get as tired as the arms do.
That's right. It almost looks like, you know, a little bit of cycling down there in this beautiful area. And
beautiful is right. That looks like bat habitat central. Can you imagine I would go there in a second. I mean, this would be nice. Can you imagine the wildlife in that area?
Well, the really good thing is if you're rowing with your feet, you can free up your hands so that the bats can land nicely and you can examine them that way down.
Now you're talking. Yeah. Anyway, it's cool because it looks really hard to do, and when people say, you know, when people ask the rowers there what it's like, apparently it's hard at first, but then you can figure it out. And it's a good example of neuroplasticity, the ability of the brain to do things if you just work at it.
Coming up, hitting the beach with your jet engine-powered three-wheeler. That's when we come back.
Later on Daily Planet today, wingsuit divers and lemmings. So much in common, except for the flying part.
Right now, though, we are off to break a world land speed record, which takes guts, it takes smarts, and it takes a lot of perseverance. And as you're about to see on today's Road Warriors segment, a rocket also comes in quite handy as well.
One for the record books. It's what entices speed demons to hit the track.
I love land speed record racing. It's a combination of man and machine.
This weekend, they're all here to beat a personal best, but there's one machine that stands out. Jet Reaction is one of the fastest two-wheeled machines in the world. But being fast isn't enough for Richard Brown.
The world land speed record for a two-wheel vehicle is 376 miles an hour. And that's what we got to beat.
Jet Reaction is powered by a turboshaft helicopter engine Richard converted
complete with afterburner. It's all packed into this blade of a machine with an edge.
The advantage Jet Reaction has is that it's thrust powered. Whereas all the other contenders are wheel driven, they're reliant upon the traction between the vehicle and the salt to get them up to speed. Jet Reaction is simply blown along the track.
This weekend, Richard's running on sand instead of salt or asphalt. Pendine Sands was a hotspot for racing 100 years ago, and it's one of the few places in the world where the land speed record has been captured. It'll be Richard's first time running on sand, and he's at the mercy of the tides.
We're at a stage where the tide's just beginning to go out.
We'll be on beach, going up and taking all the debris off it and inspecting the sand to see what sort of condition it's in. It differs every time the tide goes out. Look, I've got you all this sun, no wind.
Brilliant.
What more do you want?
Well, we're not worried about the wind, we've got 3 wheels today.
Jet Reaction usually runs on 2 wheels, but this weekend, Richard's added a third to make the bike more stable for testing. Bad weather has been killing their development schedule.
Literally on the way home from a frustrating session of not running thanks to the crosswind, I sort of said, damn it, next time we're out, we're going to have damn 3 wheels and beat the wind, because a lot of the data is absolutely identical whether the vehicle's running on 3 wheels or 2 wheels. The bike has basically evolved since I started building it. Very early runs without any body work, a very short airstrip just to see whether I could get the thing up on 2 wheels, and all those sort of initial, will it, won't it type questions.
The answer from those early trials was, it will. But there have been plenty of bumps along the way.
Oh, there's fluid coming out here, Richard, look.
Okay, we'll call him it then. I guess you could say it's a continuous evolution. It remains a prototype vehicle right up until we break the record, really.
That will be set at the Bonneville Salt Flats, a crust of white that stretches hard and flat for kilometers. It's also the mecca of land speed racing and Richard's ultimate goal. But the sand of Pendine is a great stepping stone.
It's an opportunity to get more data, about the vehicle and learn more about it. It's an opportunity for me to spend more time in the driving seat. I probably only get literally a matter of minutes to learn how to drive and ride the thing.
Day 1. The tide is out and the beach exposed. The sand is fine for the short runs, but for Richard?
They shut the long course entirely. They're not running it because there's a very soft patch halfway along, and obviously it's dangerous. That's the bottom line.
Another precious day of testing lost. But on day 2, the weather and the tide are playing along.
It's just been all the way down the track in the van and walked some of it as well. And this is what we came for. Let's crack on and get these flags out then. Will you all give us a hand with that as well, Alex?
Yes.
We want all hands on deck, really, don't we?
First run, up the beach, reheat's inhibited. We're going to run it as a normal run. So we're going to have somebody at the end zone.
We'll take it run by run depending on how the handling feels on the beach. The very first run will be quite low speed, probably 150.
You could say it's a walk on the beach. And now that Richard knows the surface, they'll take it up a notch.
We jack it up, check the wheels, wheel bearings, refuel it, check the tyres. We don't want anything going wrong. Just give it a good scrutiny, make sure it's safe to run.
The sort of surface vehicle interaction is the surprise of the weekend. I thought we could go faster on sand than we have.
260 kilometers an hour. Less than half the world record, but valuable track time to help him reach that goal.
Every time we test, more comes out of it, and that's exactly what testing, of course, is all about.
Leaving them fired up for the future. Next Monday on Road Warriors, airbags for everyone. Front, back, it doesn't matter. It's safety first for all. Next Monday.
Okie dokie, let's check out some of the science and tech headlines on our radar today. And we are 11 and a half days away from Halloween, so it is time to start the official kickoff celebration.
I didn't know there was an official kickoff celebration.
Oh yes, there is. Behold, the Pumpkin Regatta. This is the 5th annual Ginormous Pumpkin Regatta, which, yeah, very well named, right? Competitors hollow out 300 to 700 kilo pumpkins, decorate them as they see fit, and then they race. Though the decorations are kept simple since you don't want to add anything that's going to throw off your pumpkin's balance. You've got your Captain Crunch there, Dirty Hippie, I'm not sure exactly what that is, a hot dog. And the winner? Well, there are no winners or losers at the Ginormous Pumpkin Regatta.
And we're counting down to Halloween, but we're also counting down to our next theme week, which is Adrenaline Junkies, coming November 9th. Put it in your calendar. Let's give you a little sneak peek from China. This is the World Wingsuit League Championships. Yep, it's a league now with multiple competitors who travel all around the world to various locales. 8 contestants are in this final and proving they're seriously crazy. They're jumping off a 1,400-meter cliff. Okay, that's 1.4 kilometers high, and then they're gliding 2 kilometers through the Tianmen Mountains. An American named Noah Banson is the official holder of the title this year. We'll have lots more of this. If you like this, you should tune in for Adrenaline Junkies Week because it's glorious. All right, do you want to help me do some science?
Yeah, of course,
Here you go,
always.
there's a balloon. I got some balloons here. What we're gonna do is we're gonna blow these up and then we're gonna stab them.
Oh, why would we do that?
Well, we're gonna see how they burst because maybe if we can figure that out, maybe we can make balloons that never burst or develop better weather balloons or better non-cracking glass, all kinds of things.
Okay, I kind of hate to burst your bubble, but researchers in France are actually already working on this. They figured out that when a balloon is less stressed or less full, it develops a single crack, but when the balloon is really stressed or at its capacity, it snaps kind of badly into all these smaller fragments, not unlike people really.
Well, yeah, but you still want to pop some balloons, right? Could you pass me that? Thanks.
Oh.
Careful, it's sharp.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Up next, what do you look for in a camera? Low aperture? High resolution? Bite proof? That's coming up. Lots more on Daily Planet today. A smartboard is just a point of a finger away.
Plus, bad animation be gone with the help of motion sensors.
And a loaf is just a loaf until it breaks a world record. Right now, though, a tiny but mighty machine, brave enough to stand up to a pride of lions and come out unscathed. Okay, maybe just a little bit scathed.
Using the buggy, I was really looking for that unique angle. It's, you're down at ground level, very close, looking up at a large wild animal that, would be a very dangerous situation to be in any other way. I'm Chris McLennan. I'm a full-time travel and wildlife photographer. We first came up with the idea of building a buggy like this after spending a lot of time shooting wildlife in Africa. I really wanted to come up with a way to get in close to these animals and get unique shots that I hadn't otherwise been able to get. When we decided to build Carl, I went to a friend of mine, Carl, who's an engineer, and with the idea, I had an Aquatech sound blimp, which is a protective housing that I wanted to put around the camera to stop it getting destroyed, and then we wanted to make it mobile.
The way Carl was built was very much around rock crawling technology, which is designed to travel not at high speed but be highly manoeuvrable and to cope with a vast amount of uneven terrain. The tyres, for instance, are not pneumatic, they're foam filled and very soft, very squishy. The suspension allows for a long degree of travel, and which all means that the buggy gets great traction and allows it to move over uneven terrain without affecting the camera too much in the housing.
The very first day that I got Carl out, we approached a large male lion. He approached it, but he was quite timid and he backed off and moved away. The very next day, I very cautiously approached a pride of 8 full-grown female lionesses. They pretty quickly jumped to their feet, stalked the buggy, came up on it, gave it a couple of whacks, and it was like large kittens really, and I managed to back off and got some more shots as the whole 8 of them stalked the buggy, and one of them proceeded to grab it and run off with it.
I had to wait until Chris got back from his trip to see that it had been picked up by a lion, and Chris was ecstatic. I was aghast. I'd never thought about the fact that it would get taken away. It was probably a very different set of emotions that I had from what Chris had when we saw the same footage.
The most challenging part of the shoot was probably waiting to get the buggy back. Knowing that I had these great opportunities and I've been pushing the button and thought I had the shot, the anticipation was huge. heart was pumping like crazy, and once we opened it up, and there was 3 of us there at the time, and looked at the camera and saw the images that we had, we were all just in hysterics, and we were in a state of euphoria for days afterwards. It was quite an incredible experience. There were a number of shots that stood out from Carel that day. One of my favourites would definitely be the 8 lionesses converging in, coming up and stalking the camera. There's another one where there's 1 lion or lioness down very low looking straight into the camera, and then there's another one over top on each side with their paws coming forward, and it actually looks like they've taken a selfie. It looks like there's this lion's paw coming forward and the 3 of them lined up in the shot. I've got a lot more plans to use it in Africa. We're going to do some more modifications so that we can shoot some different things in a different way, and I really look forward to getting it out there again and getting some new angles.
We are breaking some records today. First up, world's longest baguette, and it's being made in Italy. Who do you think you are, Italy? France? Anyway, Italy seems to have this thing well in hand, even building a special oven. See, in order to be called the world's largest baguette, the thing has to be baked in 1 piece. Enter the giant rolling oven of crusty goodness. Dough is churning through here at a rate of 20 meters an hour, and after 6 hours, well, we've got ourselves 122 meters of record-breaking baguette.
One more record for you now. For this one, we're going to head to China. Get ready for this record. It's most varieties of plant grafted into one structure. You're looking at 641 different varieties of chrysanthemum here. Now, keep in mind, this is way harder than making a long baguette, for example. You have to deal with each of the different plants' needs. The team in charge had some plants that needed to be shaded, some had to be more exposed to the sun, some needed special fertilizers that would be way too strong for the plants right next to them. It took them 6 years to plan this all out, so you should be very impressed.
Coming up, turn any surface into a smart board. All you need is your finger. That's when we come back.
Tomorrow on Daily Planet.
I don't know that there'll ever be anything normal about a plane closing the canopy with no one in it and then blasting off.
Normal? No. Mind-blowing? Yeah.
It still amazes me every time I see it.
That's tomorrow. Right now, though, time for digital.
How cool would it be if you could control the facial expressions on other people? If only that was a thing. Oh wait, this is digital where anything is possible. These people are real, not cartoon avatars, and in a stunning display of high-tech ventriloquism, the movements of one person instantly show up on the face of the other. Now, a pair of depth-sensing cameras use custom code to track things like the geometry and reflection of a human face. And a simulation of teeth puts those finishing touches on the swapping of the expressions. This international research project still has a few kinks that need to be worked out. If a hand moves in front of a person's face, the image instantly becomes distorted and that effect is ruined. But the results are beyond promising, and this could be a total game changer for the future of animation, bringing it to a level of realism we've never seen before. Coming up, we're checking out a device that brings gesture control to pretty much, well, everything. The Bird from MUV Interactive is a gadget packed with a ton of hardware, and it still fits on your finger. Bio and motion sensors are combined with tiny cameras that send optical and movement information to a transmitter and a projector via Bluetooth. Now, that combination lets a single finger replace other input devices like your computer mouse and touchscreens. And gestures made in 3D space are translated to drawing tools or left and right click selections. It even replaces traditional drone controls. Instead of piloting your aircraft with your phone or other remotes, you're doing it with a digit. Now, the Bird is available for pre-order now and should be taking flight for spring 2016. And finally tonight, we're looking at a Kickstarter campaign that could just bring back a demand for flashlights. Most of us use our smartphones when we need to shed some light, but that could change with the Lumen. It harvests energy from your body heat to power that super bright LED. This bad boy never needs batteries because any extra energy you generate is stored in the device itself. When you touch it, you charge it. Now, the Lumen is definitely lighting up backer support. The inventor asked for $5,000 to complete development, but surpassed that with $42,000 already pledged, and he still has 25 days to go. And of course, if you want to talk about any of tonight's tech, just let me know at DP_TechLucas.
Thank you, Lucas. All right, it turns out technology is a big part of this next story as well. It's about how motion capture is totally changing the world of animations.
Hi, I'm Carl Hobson, and I'm figuring out how to use motion capture in the animal kingdom.
Motion capture when it comes to humans is pretty straightforward. We've been doing it for years, but as far as animals, we still don't understand how the animal will react, so it's still something that's pretty unknown. We first did this with a horse, pretty much because we had access to the animal and we know they can be worked with quite well. Normally, when someone produces an animation for a game or a film, you end up in one or two scenarios. Either that person has studied a horse in great detail and the animation is good, but it's cost an awful lot of time and money, or the animation is bad. The reason for it being bad is that the animation is too stiff. It looks not quite like a robot, but not far off. If the person who's actually doing the work doesn't understand the subject, it can look wrong. And depending on the viewer's experience, they're paying attention to that mistake rather than the story. Problem is you can't turn your mind off to it, so you know, even if you've had, say, one or two alcoholic drinks or something, you're still paying attention to it. You can't shut off your knowledge. Motion capture is quite simple. We place markers which move relative to the bones, and these are reflective. They shine the light out, the light bounces back into the camera. We tried things that were quite simple first off, like walking, trotting, but then we also did quite a bit of jumping, you know, more extreme movements. We tried to capture a quite broad range of motion, and what happens is we can reconstruct this skeleton digitally. You know, I could probably produce an animation of Marie here in probably 2 days. I think the major thing about working with the horse is that you can't create a barrier to protect the cameras or the equipment, so I was always scared that I would have to go to my boss afterwards and basically say, sorry guys, I wrecked £500,000 of equipment. It's very scary. I'll never forget the moment that I first saw her walk across the screen. The motion is so detailed, you can immediately recognize that it's your horse. We also tried doing motion capture with a dog and a cat. We were very skeptical with the cat, but it turns out that cats can actually be trained. We hired a cat that basically cost £250 a day. Basically earned more money than I did. And that worked really well, but the problem with some animals is they've got fur and the markers don't move in the way the bones do. We found quite a few things from the work that we produced. We found that really this is a great way of producing animations quickly. We can produce an animation within 2 days, maybe. Whereas if you were to use another method, you're probably talking a month, 2 months. The second thing is that it's going to be more immersive, your product, because the animation's better. At 4K resolution, you know, you're going to spot every single mistake. I think the problem with this work is that it's multidisciplinary. You've got to have knowledge in a lot of different areas, and I think that that knowledge has never really come together before.
Okay, from technology that captures animal movements to technology that gets animals moving. And let me preface this next discovery with a question. What would make running on a treadmill easier, Zaya?
What, Dan?
Having 4 legs instead of 2, and a tail and a snout.
Okay, I have no idea what you're talking about, but I'm all ears.
Okay, ears were not on my list, but we'll continue. This is Casper, the timber wolf, taking a trot on a giant treadmill at the Wolf Science Center in Austria. This thing is 2.5 meters wide, 10 meters end to end. It's the longest treadmill in the world.
I'm like that at the airport.
Are you? All right. Researchers use targeted training to get the animals on the moving belt, and now that they're seasoned pros, they can even do this wearing heart rate monitors. It's amazing. So the researchers wanted to figure out if and how social relationships affected a joint activity, like running after prey. So they can mix this up. They can put dogs on there with dogs. They can put wolves with wolves, and get this, they can have wolves on there with humans. What would happen then? Okay, up next, from deer that vote to bees that build consensus.
Today on Zoology, we're looking at democracy in the animal kingdom.
That's still to come.
When you live in big groups like human beings do, you have to make sure you get your say. But we aren't the only species that votes on how we run our affairs. Today on Zoology, we're looking at democracy in the animal kingdom. Take, for instance, red deer. You and your herd spend days grazing in the big wide world, But what happens when you want to head off to greener pastures? Who decides when it's time to go? Well, it turns out red deer vote. Not with their hands, obviously, because they don't have any, but with their feet. The herd moves on when just over 60% of the group stands up. When they hit that majority, they're ready to go. Bees are also democratic, and they buzz in their ballots when it's time to find a new home. When a hive gets overcrowded, the family splits, and the new group forms a swarm tasked with finding a new hive site. But when you've got 50,000 bees in your family, who picks the spot? Well, just like people, bees favor some locations over others. As the scouts seek out new real estate, they encode the directions to their favorite site in a waggle dance. The more enthusiastic they are about the spot, the more enthusiastic the dance. Thank God realtors aren't like that. Anyhow, here's the interesting thing. Scientists have discovered that there appears to be a magic number to get the hive to move. Once a location gets 15 scouts hovering above it, meaning that 15 scouts have signaled their approval, they fly back to tell the other honeybees, and the entire swarm moves to the newly elected home. African buffalo also democratically decide which direction the herd should move in, but they do it in a subtle way that scientists didn't even notice at first. It's called mundane stretching. The buffalo may look like they're just shuffling or stretching a bit and then sitting back down, but in buffalo lingo, that, my friends, is voting. Interestingly, it's only the females that vote, and when they stand, they gaze for a little while in one direction. This process goes on with various members of the herd for about an hour, and then when it's time to go, the entire group heads off in the same direction. So there you have it. While we usually like to take the credit, human beings certainly aren't the first to come up with democracy. We may call it the animal kingdom, but for the most part, a majority rules.
All right, time for the Alan Nursall experience now. And this week, Alan has found a machine on a lake that looks kind of like a snowmobile. I'm kind of wondering how that's going to work out for him.
Welcome to Grand Rapids, Michigan, where sunshine means relaxing on the lake, hanging out on the boat. Wait a second, since when do I relax? Now that's more like it. Enter the Jet Blade.
I guess it would be the mix between a snowmobile and a Sea-Doo. You got to give snowmobilers something to do on the water. What sort of makes the Jet Blade unique is that it starts in the water submerged and then it comes out in planes on 3 skis.
Josh is part of a 4-man team putting the ski back in jet ski, all in the name of a college project?
We all live together, so we figured it was a natural team to form. We were all mechanical engineers. We all liked watercraft vehicles, and so we're like, all right, this is what we went with.
I took us 3 weeks worth of meetings just to figure out what to make.
That was rough.
They got an A, but no one outside this super team has ever taken it for a spin. Until today. Call me Professor Nursall.
So Zach, Josh.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going well. I know I'm supposed to ride it, but it doesn't look ready to ride.
It's actually ready to ride. We're just doing a few finishing touches here, getting it ready for you today.
It looks like a snowmobile.
Doesn't ride on snow though.
So this is the guts in here. This is the power plant, right?
Yeah, this is actually an engine out of a 1979 wet bike.
What's a wet bike?
It's an old watercraft that it was actually in one of the James Bond films that debuted, and they kind of died off a little bit. Well, we found one, and it had the engine that we needed, as well as the pump in the rear ski is actually from the wet bike as well. So we took that and built a custom body around that.
What makes it a jet blade?
I guess what makes it a jet blade is the blade kind of comes from almost the hydrofoil design of the skis. There's 3 skis that it rides on. You have the 2 in the front, and then there's 1 in the back here. And so that's the blade section of it. And then the jet, there's actually a jet pump in the back. If you want to come around here, you can look at that. Yep. You can see here.
It intakes from the bottom down here. The intake rate is right there, and it comes up and shoots right back out.
Now this is a little bit different, where as a jet boat or a jet ski, the jet pump itself will actually turn to maneuver the vehicle, and this actually uses the skis in the front to direct the craft where you want it to go.
How do you know it's the best design?
We don't actually. This was our very first prototype, so the thing we might do in the future is test out more skis to see how they react in the water.
This beast is a prototype, and I'm your test pilot.
You are. You're going to try it out for us today.
Tell me somebody else has driven it.
Yeah, we have. The whole team's taken it out.
It's a point of honor. The 2 prongs go in the holes. After a few last-minute tweaks, it's time to take this project from the classroom to the water. 1, 2, 3, what does it matter?
Get your workout.
Now for the hardest part, getting on. How do you get on this thing?
When I get on it, you're usually a little lower in the water, so you're floating in the water. This thing's floating in the water. You want to sort of make sure you're balancing out. You try to scoot forward as soon as possible.
Okay, so it's all about keeping it upright, and it wants to wobble.
Yeah. You got to have some balance to get on.
So, what's the instruction again? Knee here.
Foot. Try to put your foot on the outside and work your way up.
As quickly as possible. Oh,
you can take your time.
What could possibly go wrong?
Sort of start shimming your way forward.
Hold on. Feeling good about this. Feeling good about this. What about the 7th time? Whoops. After yet another failed attempt, we decide to call for backup. Now I have pontoons. Here we go.
Got a nice donut.
Okay, guys, what am I doing wrong?
You gave it a good amount of gas. Maybe don't lean back quite as far.
Okay.
You're taking off like a wheelie there.
So
you almost had it.
There's a lot of technique here, a lot of weight balance, a lot of weight transfer required. Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Forward.
All right, go a little more forward.
I'm not man enough to tame this machine. But it's cool. But it's crazy. What do you think, guys? Did I pass?
Yeah, you did awesome.
Great job.
An A+ for Team JetBlade. And a barely passing grade for me. Back to school I go.
Time for 2 more discoveries now, and honestly, you think you can just hold that sign and you're gonna be able to hitch a ride to the moon?
Yep.
You think somebody's gonna drive through our studio and then continue driving to the moon, and this is how you're gonna get there?
We have a lot of astronauts pass through the studio.
That is true, but I think you might have better luck in Europe or Russia because they are actually planning a lunar mission. It's called Luna 27, should launch in about 5 years. The plan is to be like squatters. Basically, they set up in the South Pole, see if they can find any water or the raw materials they need to make fuel and breathable air, and if so, they say dibs, and then they build a little settlement.
Well, that's perfect, but I need that to be built a little bit sooner than 5 years from now.
And why is that?
That's because of the surprise asteroids that we may encounter.
Okay, that's not totally something we need to actually worry about, I think.
Well, clearly, Dan, you haven't heard about 2015 TB-145.
You mean the asteroid that's supposed to pass us at a distance of about 499,000 kilometers? I'm pretty sure we're gonna be okay.
Yeah, but guess what? They just found it, and it's only 2 weeks out, so it should pass us by on Halloween. That's not a lot of time to set up in case it was the big one. Plus, you know, Bruce Willis isn't quite as young and spry as he used to be. I have some concerns.
Yeah, he was spry, wasn't he? Maybe we should crank up the Aerosmith and just think about this for a while. Hey, what do you say?
Yeah.
Coming up. Who needs rock and roll when you've got wood and megaphones? Weird Planet is right after the break. Tomorrow on Daily Planet, landing a plane from the safety of the ground.
One of the most ridiculous things you'll ever do in your career.
Malcolm is our MacGyver. He can make anything.
Like building a Segway-mounted camera from scratch? No problem.
He's steering with his legs.
And got a jellyfish infestation? These jellyfish shredding robots are all over it.
That's tomorrow.
Time now for the Happy Election Day. I sure hope everyone watching this went out and voted edition of Weird Planet. So, put down your iPods, ladies and gentlemen. You're about to hear the Songs of the Forest.
This comes to us from the Estonia Academy of Arts and their interior architecture students. They're building 3-meter diameter giant megaphones out of wood to amplify the surrounding sounds of the forest.
Yeah, the megaphone also doubles as an art installation / recreational hangout area. You could kind of sit in there with a book in your hand listening to nature's very own concert. You could meditate there, you could do whatever you want because it's beautiful. And it's the designer of this is Bridget Oigus, and she's hoping that it's going to be able to do all these things.
The students installed 3 megaphones that are available for visitors. Should you happen to find yourself in Estonia, hit up the Pani Nature Center.
All right, my vacation is planned for the summer. Done.
We'll be at the Pani Nature Center. It's going to be so much fun. Anyway, come back tomorrow because we have a lot of wonderful delights, including a trip to the back lots of Peacemaker Filmworks.
Yep, these folks make all kinds of moving cameras for special effects, and their latest challenge is a motorcycle chase.
Yeah, not just any motorcycle chase. This one is in outer space.
We're going to drop in tomorrow to see how they solved that one.
And while we're there, check out the Segway Cam and a whole bunch of other cool camera tech that they have up their sleeves.
We'll see you tomorrow for that, and bring your popcorn.
Make sure to vote. We will see you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.